guys. So we're looking at chapter 11, which is talking about produce. And this is your lecture for October 30th. And we're going to be covering pages 118 to 125. So you guys should have already read about vegetables and everything. So I'm going to cover fruit and then salad. Okay, so what is a fruit? Well, a fruit is produced by seed-bearing plants. Fruits are excellent sources of carbohydrates, fiber, vitamin C, vitamin A, and potassium. It's low in sodium and fat, and it does not contain cholesterol, and it's high in natural sugar. So all of those things make fruit very good for you to consume. And you really should enjoy fruit every day. It should be part of a well-balanced diet. Okay, so you've decided that you want to eat fruit every day, so how do you know what type of fruit that you're buying is the best kind? We're going to talk about selecting and handling fresh fruit. When you buy fruit, you should only buy what you're going to use within a short period of time, because fruit is one of those perishable items, and it does quickly go out if you don't eat it quickly. So some fruit like berries, that should say grapes. I'm not sure why I said grapes. I think it's because the G and the F are right beside each other on the keyboard, but grapes, melons, and fruits should be used as soon as possible. They have a shorter lifespan, but there's some fruits like apples, citrus fruit like, tangerines and oranges. And pears can be stored a little longer. You want to buy whatever fruit's in season for best quality, and also it's the most economic. So when you're looking for fruit, what are you going to be looking for? Well, you want to look for quality. You want to look for fruit that's normal in size. You don't want something that's too small or too big. Sometimes either extreme makes the fruit taste funny. You want to make sure that it's the right size and that it's heavy for its size and it's plump. You also want to make sure that the fruit that you're selecting is the correct color. And of course, fruit comes in various colors, but it should be bright and it should be free of bruises and cuts. And you definitely shouldn't buy anything with mold or mildew on it, which I hope I didn't need to tell you that. I hope you already knew that. But the book does go over that, so I wanted to just mention it. When you're touching the fruit, it should be firm to the touch. Sometimes it's good to buy fruit that's slightly underripe, because it will continue ripening if left at room temperature, and you can keep it for a little bit longer. And you can actually speed up ripening process with a paper bag. All you have to do is put the fruit inside of the paper bag, close it, and leave it at room temperature, and just check on the fruit daily, and you will know when it's ready. When you are storing fruit, it's best to store it in the refrigerator, but bear in mind that different types of fruit are going to respond to refrigeration differently. For example, bananas, the peels will turn brown if you put them in the fridge. So if you want to keep your banana peels looking yellow, then you wouldn't want to put them in the fridge. However, if you are not going to be eating the bananas quickly enough, but you want to make sure that they stay ripe and not overripe, and putting them in the refrigerator is a good idea, because the fruit itself will be kept safe. It's just the skin turns a different color. I want to mention something called enzymatic browning. And so enzymatic browning actually occurs with fruits such as apples, avocados, and bananas. And basically, it's a fancy way of saying that when you cut into this type of fruit and it's exposed to the air, it will turn brown after a short period of time. So in order to prevent this from happening, if you just don't like the aesthetic of it, you should take these fruit, like the apples, the avocados, so forth and so on, and dip the cut pieces in lemon, orange, grapefruit, or pineapple juice. And that has to do with the acid in those juices that will help keep the fruit from turning brown. Speaking of apples, there are various kinds of apples. I'm sure you've noticed if you've gone grocery shopping that there's sweet apples, there's Granny Smith apples, there are Honeycrisp apples. So there is a huge variety, and they all have different purposes. Some are for baking, some are for cooking, some are for eating, some are as an ingredient in a salad. It's just fun to look and experiment with apples. So I just wanted to draw your attention to the differences with them. If you're interested in looking at a fruit chart that talks about what the fruit looks like at its best when you're shopping and you want to get the best kind, and also how to store it, please look on page 118 to 119 of your book. All right, so fruit comes in various forms in our modern age. It comes in frozen fruit. For one, when you're picking frozen fruit, make sure the packages are clean and that it's frozen solid, because you do not want to get anything that's been thawed, because you don't know what happened to it or if germs have started to grow in there. Bacteria will start to grow in frozen items if they're thawed and left out for too long. You also are going to want to check, you're also going to want to check to see what it was frozen with, if it has syrup or sweetener, because you might want to avoid that for whatever reason. We also have canned fruit. Canned fruit really is good because it comes in a variety of choices, but a lot of times it too is also packed in liquid syrup or heavy syrup or juice, and so you want to just sort of bear in mind the differences. So if something's packed in syrup, it'll probably have more calories because there's a higher sugar content than something that's packed in juice. And juice also, if it's packed in its own fruit juice, it generally has a higher nutritional value. If you've ever been to the grocery store, I'm sure that you've noticed that canned fruit comes in wholes, it comes in halves, it comes in sliced, diced, or crushed, and it's usually less expensive than fresh fruit. Bear in mind that when you're purchasing canned fruit, you do not want to buy anything that has dents or bulges or leaks in it, okay? And then there's dried fruit. Dried fruit are absolutely delicious. They have high nutritional value. They are, the famous ones are usually, like, I'm sure you've all had raisins or apricots or prunes or dates. And it's important to store dried fruit in a tightly covered container after you open it, just to help keep the freshness in there. And you are also wanting to just make sure that it's at its best potential, particularly if you're going to cook with it. Some people like to cook with dried fruit and they actually rehydrate it, but there are going to be directions on the package if you want to rehydrate dried fruit. I just like dried fruit in general. I don't think I've ever really cooked with it, but some people do. Okay, so fruit has multiple uses. It's a healthy snack. It appears in salads. It can be part of a dessert. It's like one of my favorites, apple pie. It is also important to note that if you are making anything with fruit in it, whether it be a dessert or whether it be something else, if you're cooking with fruits, do not overcook. If you overcook, the fruit becomes mushy and they lose their shape and texture. They also lose their color, flavor, and some nutritional value. So you want to be really careful with how you cook fruit. Okay, let's talk about salads. So we have multiple types of salads. There's fruit salad, which is pictured right here. There's gelatin salad, which is pictured right here. There's pasta salad, which I put up here, and then green salad, which is what we're all familiar with. The most probably, because that's the most popular kind of salad, I suppose. But let's start off talking about fruit salad. So it can be served as an appetizer. It could be a dessert salad if you want to serve it with Cool Whip on top, or yogurt is sometimes used as a dressing as well. Sometimes nuts are added to the fruit salad, just to add a little bit of crunch. So gelatin salad can be served as an appetizer, and it could also be an accompaniment to a dinner, or it could be dessert. Sometimes gelatin can have fruit in it, or vegetables, or nuts, and other ingredients can be added as it sets. But it is important to note there are two types of powdered gelatin varieties. One is unflavored gelatin, which dissolves into a clear and flavorless gelatin, versus flavored gelatin, which is pre-sweetened and comes with a certain flavor or color. It's very important to follow all of the directions when you're making a gelatin salad to the T. So make sure you look at the directions on a box when you're making gelatin, because if you don't make it according to the recipe, it could actually end up not working for you. So for example, if you are dissolving the gelatin in just warm water and not hot water, the gelatin will not set. So you need to make sure you use boiling water when you're making a gelatin salad. And we also have pasta salads. Pasta salads are delicious. They can be served as a main dish or they can be used as an accompaniment. Whenever you are making a pasta salad, it's important to rinse the salad, rinse the pasta in cold water immediately after cooking. This helps stop the cooking process and preserves the pasta's texture. Because you want the pasta to be, firmer rather than not in a pasta salad. We also have just other kinds of salads that I'm just going to mention briefly. They're not really listed on here, but the protein salad, and this is usually something that contains meat, cheese, and eggs or nuts, and also a vegetable salad, which can be a side dish or it can be a hearty accompaniment or some sort of appetizer, and it's usually made from raw vegetables. So let's talk now about the proper handling and storage of greens, because if you're going to make a green salad, then there's certain steps you need to follow with your handling of the greens. So when you're at the grocery store, you're going to want to pick out greens that are crisp and hydrated. You don't want to pick out limp-looking things or things that look rusted or that have holes in them. Make sure you wash prior to use. You always want to wash your greens prior to use. This is because there's bits of matter and dirt usually on leaves of salads, and you want to make sure that you're getting it all off because you don't want to serve something to a guest that has mud on it. That would be embarrassing. You also want to make sure you dry thoroughly your greens, because if you don't, it's going to affect the texture of the salad. Someone might think they're getting served a soup instead of a salad. Iceberg lettuce is handled a little bit differently, so I just wanted to briefly mention iceberg lettuce. And this is because there's a distinction between iceberg lettuce and leaf lettuce, for example. But if you are dealing with iceberg lettuce, also known as head lettuce, you want to make sure you pick out one that feels heavy for its size and have a springy firmness when lightly squeezed. And you also are going to clean it a little bit differently. You're going to rinse the intact head under cold water, and you're going to rinse it with the core side up, and then turn the lettuce core side down and allow it to drain until it is very dry. Then you're going to pat the outside dry with a towel. After iceberg lettuce has been cleaned and dried, you can store it in an airtight container or plastic bag in the refrigerator, and it actually usually is good for about 1 to 2 weeks when properly cleaned and stored. You want to prepare your salad just before you serve it because salads tend to get soggy if they sit over time. You want to be mindful of each ingredient and how you cut them. For instance, if you're putting tomatoes on there, you want to make sure that you are not wanting to cut them too early, because if you put the tomatoes on there too early, it can cause the salad to wilt. But there's just different ways to be mindful of how to put a salad together. We also have salad dressings, which are lovely. They can be tossed within the salad, or the salad can be topped with the dressing. And remember that salads are pretty perishable and they need to be eaten pretty quickly. So let's talk briefly about salad dressing. Usually it begins with a base of oil and an acid such as vinegar or lemon juice. And the seasonings and thickeners are often added. There's several basic types. There's vinaigrette or French, and this is created by temporary emulsion. In other words, it does not stay mixed. The oil will sink and other ingredients the oil will rise and other ingredients will sink. That's why you have to shake it up. Then we have mayonnaise, for example. Oops. This is a permanent emulsion, which means that all of the ingredients stay bound together. Then we have cooked salad dressing and creamy dressings. All right, your turn.